Lindy. Something has changed at Heartland, and season 20 could be the season that changes Amy's entire life. Nathan has already proposed, Katie's complicated feelings could return, a new character is entering the story, and Amy may be standing at the beginning of a completely new chapter. But there is one possibility that makes this milestone season even more emotional. Could season 20 secretly be preparing Heartland for goodbye? Heartland, season 20. Ton 20 is officially happening, production is underway, and CBC has confirmed the new season for fall 2026. After 19 seasons of heartbreak, family struggles, new beginnings, and unforgettable moments, the Bartlett-Fleming family is heading into its 20th chapter. And this time, the biggest question isn't simply what happens at the ranch. It's what happens to the people who have spent years calling it home. Season 19 left us with Nathan unexpectedly proposing to Amy, creating one of the biggest questions going into season 20. Will Amy finally say yes? Will Nathan and Amy actually get married? Could they leave Heartland behind and build a new life somewhere else? And what happens to Katie, Dex, and River after everything that happened between them? Today, we're breaking down the biggest season 20 possibilities while separating what we know from what is still theory. Season 19 doesn't simply end with another Heartland problem being solved. It ends with the possibility of Amy's life changing forever. After everything Amy has experienced, Nathan's proposal arrives at a very important moment. Amy has spent years trying to understand what her future is supposed to look like, and that future has always been complicated by the memories of the life she once shared with Ty. That is what makes the proposal so interesting. On the surface, it seems like a simple romantic moment. Nathan asks Amy to marry him, and the natural assumption is that season 20 will begin with Amy accepting. But emotionally, the situation is much bigger than a yes or no. Amy isn't simply deciding whether she loves Nathan. She is deciding whether she is ready to fully step into a future that no longer revolves around her past. That distinction matters because Heartland has never treated Amy's relationship with Ty as something that can simply be erased. Even after his death, his memory remained part of Amy's emotional journey. She could move forward without forgetting him. And that is exactly why Nathan's patience has been so important. Nathan has never been able to replace Ty, and realistically, he shouldn't. Instead, his relationship with Amy has slowly developed in its own way. Throughout season 19, we saw more signs that Amy was becoming comfortable with Nathan, and more willing to consider what a future with him could actually look like. At the same time, Nathan showed that he was prepared to deal with the complicated parts of Amy's life, rather than pretending they didn't exist. His relationship with Lindy is one of the clearest examples. Lindy has her own memories, emotions, and connection to her father. Nathan couldn't simply walk into that situation and expect everything to be easy, yet his patience allowed him to become someone Lindy could trust. That makes the potential marriage much more meaningful because Nathan isn't only building a relationship with Amy, he is becoming part of the family around her. And then there is Heartland Ranch itself. For Amy, Heartland isn't just a property, it is a piece of her identity. It is where she grew up, where she learned from her family, where she built her career, and where so many of the most important moments of her life happened. Leaving that behind would therefore be an enormous emotional decision. But season 19 introduced another possibility. Nathan was shown considering a ranch opportunity on Salt Spring Island. If that possibility becomes important in season 20, Amy could suddenly face a choice she has never really had to make before. Does she stay at Heartland because it represents everything she has known, or does she leave because she is ready to create something that belongs entirely to her new future? That could become one of the central conflicts of the early season 20 episodes. And this is where the wedding theory becomes even more interesting. If Amy accepts Nathan's proposal, the story cannot simply jump from engagement to happily ever after. There are practical questions waiting for them. Where will they live? What happens to Lindy? What happens to Amy's work? How will the family react? And, most importantly, can Amy really start over without feeling like she is abandoning the life she built? There is also another possibility fans will immediately notice. A marriage could represent the beginning of an entirely different family dynamic. If Amy and Nathan begin building a home of their own, their relationship could become less about surviving emotional obstacles and more about creating something stable. That would fit the broader direction Heartland has been moving toward as several characters begin reaching new stages in their lives. But there is one theory that takes this even further. Some viewers may expect Season 20 to reveal that Amy is pregnant. There is no official confirmation of that storyline, so it should be treated strictly as a prediction. But from a storytelling perspective, it would make sense as a possible next step. A pregnancy would immediately raise the emotional stakes of Amy and Nathan's relationship and make their decisions about marriage, home, and family much more important. Imagine Amy standing at Heartland and realizing that she isn't simply choosing a new home. She is choosing the environment where her next generation could grow up. That would turn the Salt Spring Island idea into something much bigger than a location change. It could become the symbol of Amy finally accepting that her life is moving forward. And that brings us to the question Season 20 may be asking from the very beginning. Can Amy build a new future without losing the connection to the past that made her who she is? Because if she says yes to Nathan, the biggest change may not be the wedding. It may be everything that comes after it. One of the most interesting details going into Season 20 is not necessarily the proposal itself. It is the larger pattern surrounding the characters. Season 19 increasingly pushed several members of the Heartland family toward independence, responsibility, and change. And when you look at those storylines together, a very different picture begins to appear. Amy isn't the only person facing a transition. Lou and Jack are also reaching a point where they have to think about the future of the ranch. Jack is getting older, and the idea of retirement or stepping back from certain responsibilities becomes increasingly realistic. Lou, meanwhile, has spent so much of her life trying to manage everything that the possibility of giving more responsibility to others could become an important part of her next chapter. That matters because Heartland has traditionally been built around generations working together. But Season 20 could be about those generations slowly changing positions. The older characters may begin stepping back. The younger characters may begin taking over. Amy could potentially create a new home. Katie is entering adulthood and dealing with complicated relationships. Dex is developing his own ambitions. Georgie has her own future pulling her away from the ranch. Suddenly, the question isn't just what happens next. The question becomes, who will Heartland belong to next? That is a much bigger story. And it could explain why the idea of Season 20 being the final season has started appearing in fan discussions. To be clear, there is currently no official confirmation that Season 20 is the final season. What is confirmed is that Heartland has been renewed for Season 20 and that it is scheduled to return on CBC and CBC Gem in fall 2026. The final season idea remains speculation. Still, the timing is fascinating. 20 seasons is an extraordinary milestone for a television drama. Heartland is already the longest-running one-hour drama in Canadian television history, and CBC's official Season 20 information confirms a 10-episode season for fall 2026. That naturally makes viewers wonder whether the writers could use this milestone to bring several long-running emotional arcs toward closure. Look at Amy. Look at Lou. Look at Chi. Look at Katie. Look at the ranch itself. So many pieces are moving. And that is why the Salt Spring Island possibility is so important. If Amy and Nathan actually leave, even temporarily, it could represent a major shift in the structure of the show. Heartland has always been about the ranch, but the heart of the story has always been the people. A new ranch could allow Amy to create her own identity while still remaining connected to her family. But there is another hidden layer. If Amy leaves, who becomes the next generation at Heartland? That question could bring Katie and Dex much more deeply into the story. Their relationship has already become complicated, and Season 20 could potentially use that younger generation to carry some of the emotional weight that Amy and the older characters once carried. The Katie, Dex, and River situation is especially interesting because the end of Season 19 appeared to leave things in a more stable place. Dex and River were together, while Katie had worked toward forgiveness and rebuilding relationships. But stable doesn't always mean finished. Katie could still have unresolved feelings for Dex. If she admits those feelings, Dex could find himself caught between loyalty and emotion. He may care about Katie while still knowing that acting on those feelings would hurt River. That would create a very different kind of conflict from the dramatic relationship battles we've seen before. And then there is Miles. The provided Season 20 information points toward Everett Andre joining the cast as Miles, but his exact storyline and relationship with Katie should not be treated as confirmed unless the production officially reveals it. If Miles does become connected to Katie, however, he could completely change the balance. Instead of Katie spending the season trying to win Dex back, she could meet someone who allows her to finally move forward. Or even more dramatically, Miles could make Katie realize that what she thought was love for Dex was actually part of a deeper emotional attachment to someone who had been important to her for years. That is why a new character can be so important. A new person doesn't just add another face. A new person can force an existing character to reveal what they truly want. And if Season 20 is really about characters moving into new stages of their lives, Miles could be part of that transition. There is also another detail worth watching closely: Georgie. Season 19 gave Georgie a major future decision involving an opportunity connected to her writing career. If she spends less time at Heartland, the show could create more room for the younger characters who are already growing into their own stories. That could make Season 20 feel different, even if the ranch itself remains exactly where it is. The real hidden detail may therefore be the show's changing center of gravity. For years, Heartland was primarily about Amy's journey. Now Amy may finally be reaching a point where her story is becoming less about discovering who she is and more about deciding what kind of life she wants to build. And if that happens, the younger generation could become much more important than ever before. Which leads to the biggest question of all. If everyone is moving forward, who is going to be left standing at Heartland when the dust finally settles? The first major prediction is that Amy will accept Nathan's proposal, but the wedding may not happen immediately. This is a possibility rather than a confirmed storyline. Heartland has always taken emotional decisions seriously, and rushing Amy into marriage would feel out of character. Instead, Season 20 could spend several episodes exploring what engagement actually means for Amy and Nathan. Their relationship could become stronger precisely because they are forced to discuss the things they usually avoid. Where do they live? What happens to Lindy? What happens to Heartland? What does Amy want? What does Nathan want? And can those two futures actually fit together? That final question could become the emotional engine of the season. I think the Salt Spring Island Ranch possibility could return very early. Nathan may bring it up again, perhaps not as an ultimatum, but as an opportunity. He could tell Amy that they don't have to leave immediately, but that they could build something of their own. Amy may initially resist. She loves Heartland. She has spent most of her life there. Leaving could feel almost impossible. But then something may happen that changes her perspective. It could be a moment involving Lindy. It could be a conversation with Lou. It could even be something connected to Ty's memory. Amy might realize that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the past with her while creating something new. That could be the emotional turning point. My second prediction is that the pregnancy theory, if the writers choose to explore it, would probably come later rather than immediately. Again, there is no confirmation that Amy will become pregnant. But if it happens, it would make far more sense after Amy and Nathan have already made major decisions about their future. A pregnancy reveal could arrive just when Amy believes everything has finally become simple. Suddenly, the wedding becomes more urgent. The new ranch becomes more important. And Nathan's role in the family becomes even bigger. It would also create a powerful emotional contrast with Amy's past. She would be preparing to become a mother again while remembering everything she went through as Lindy's mother and everything she lost with Ty. That could give Amber Marshall's character some deeply emotional material without needing another huge external crisis. My third prediction concerns Katie. I don't think the Katie-Dex River situation will simply disappear. Katie could admit that she still has feelings for Dex, but Dex may refuse to act on them. That rejection could hurt Katie, but it might ultimately force her to grow. And that's where Miles could enter. If Miles becomes part of Katie's story, the writers could use him to show that Katie doesn't have to keep looking backward. Perhaps she initially ignores him. Perhaps she compares him to Dex. Perhaps she even believes nobody could understand her the way Dex does. But over time, Miles could become someone who sees Katie for who she is now, rather than who she used to be. That would transform the love triangle into a coming-of-age story. River could also become more independent. Instead of spending the entire season fighting over Dex, River might focus on her own goals and force Dex to make his own decisions. That would actually create more mature drama than another simple romantic rivalry. My fourth prediction is that Jack will become one of the emotional anchors of Season 20. If the show wants to explore the idea of change, Jack is the perfect character for it. He has spent decades protecting the ranch. He has watched generations grow up. He has seen people leave and return, and now he may have to accept that the ranch doesn't need him to control everything anymore. That could be difficult. Jack stepping back would not mean Jack is no longer important. It could mean he finally trusts the people he helped raise. Imagine Jack training Dex and realizing that Dex doesn't need to become another version of him. He needs to become himself. That could be one of the most meaningful themes of the season. Lou could have a similar journey. After the chaos surrounding Gracie and the pressures of running the ranch, Lou may begin prioritizing her family differently. Instead of trying to solve every problem herself, she could start delegating responsibilities. And that could actually create conflict, because letting go is harder than taking control. For Jack and Lou, Season 20 could therefore be quieter, but more emotional. Less about survival, more about acceptance. And that brings us to the biggest theory. What if the entire season is structured around the idea of letting go? Amy lets go of the life she had with Ty without forgetting him. Nathan lets go of the idea that Amy must immediately choose his future. Lou lets go of control. Jack lets go of responsibility. Katie lets go of Dex. Dex lets go of the need to keep everyone happy. And Heartland itself begins letting go of the past. If that is what the writers are doing, then the final episode could become incredibly emotional, whether Season 20 is actually the final season or not. Because the real ending wouldn't necessarily be someone leaving. It would be the characters realizing that they are ready for whatever comes next. So what could Season 20 actually look like when the story begins? The most likely direction is a continuation from the emotional aftermath of Season 19. Amy and Nathan will have to deal with the proposal, while the rest of the family reacts to the possibility of another major change. If Amy says yes, the wedding preparations could become one of the season's recurring storylines. But don't expect everything to go smoothly. Heartland has never been afraid to place emotional obstacles in front of its characters, and a wedding gives the writers plenty of opportunities to explore family disagreements, difficult decisions, and unexpected complications. The biggest issue could be location. If Nathan brings up Salt Spring Island again, Amy may have to decide whether Heartland is still the place where she wants to spend the rest of her life. That could lead to one of the most emotional conversations of the season. Amy could tell her family that Heartland will always be home, but home doesn't necessarily have to mean one physical place. That idea could become central to the entire season. Nathan and Amy could potentially divide their time between the new ranch and Heartland. They could begin creating their own space, while still returning to the family ranch whenever they are needed. That would allow the show to change Amy's life without completely removing her from the world viewers love. Meanwhile, Lindy could have her own reaction to the changes. For Lindy, this isn't simply about getting a new house. It means watching her mother build a future with Nathan. It means potentially living somewhere new. And it means accepting that her family is changing again. If the pregnancy theory ever becomes real, Lindy's reaction could become even more important. She could be excited, she could be nervous, or she could worry that a new baby will change her relationship with Amy. That would give the writers another opportunity to explore family in a realistic way. Then there is Katie. Her storyline could provide the younger, more romantic side of Season 20. If Katie confesses her feelings for Dex, the immediate answer may be rejection, but that doesn't necessarily mean the story ends there. Dex could struggle privately with his own emotions. River could sense that something is wrong, and Katie could eventually meet Miles. The introduction of a new character could therefore create a slow-burn storyline rather than an instant romance. Miles might initially appear completely unrelated to Katie's emotional problems, but over time, he could become the person who helps her understand what she actually wants. That could also allow River and Dex to develop separately. Instead of making every character revolve around the love triangle, Season 20 could give all three of them their own paths. And that would fit the broader theme of maturity. Dex could also become more involved with rodeo. Jack training him would create a strong mentor relationship, especially if Jack begins thinking about retirement. Dex would have to learn that rodeo isn't just about talent. It's about discipline, patience, risk, and knowing when to stop. Those lessons could mirror Jack's own journey. Jack has spent his life knowing when to fight for Heartland. Now he may need to learn when to step aside. Lou's storyline could develop alongside him. She may begin transferring more responsibilities to other people, allowing herself to spend more time with family. But Lou is Lou. She isn't going to suddenly become comfortable doing nothing. There could be moments where she tries to take control again, only to realize that other people are capable of handling things. That could create some lighter family moments while still giving her character meaningful development. The larger ranch story could also become important. If Amy and Nathan establish a new home, Heartland may need a new generation of people to keep its traditions alive. That creates a fascinating possibility. What if Season 20 quietly begins preparing Katie, Dex, and the younger characters to become the future of the ranch? The show wouldn't have to announce it. It could simply show them taking on more responsibilities, helping with horses, making decisions, handling problems, learning from Jack, learning from Amy, learning from Lou, and slowly becoming the people who will eventually protect the Heartland legacy. That would make the 20th season feel like a bridge between two eras, the old Heartland and the new Heartland. But then comes the question fans are going to keep asking all season. Is this really the final chapter? Right now, the responsible answer is no one can say that for certain. Season 20 is confirmed, but an official announcement that it will be the final season has not been established in the reliable sources available. CBC's official listing confirms the fall 2026 return, while current reporting notes that final season rumors remain unconfirmed. Still, 20 seasons naturally creates an ending-shaped atmosphere. If the writers wanted to finish the series, they now have almost every ingredient they need. Amy could be married, Nathan could have his family, Lindy could be starting a new chapter, Katie could finally move on, Jack could retire, Lou could step back, the younger generation could take more responsibility, and Heartland Ranch could continue even if the people we have followed for years change. That would be a surprisingly peaceful ending, but Heartland has never been completely predictable. And that's why I wouldn't assume the final chapter, if it ever comes, will be completely happy. There could still be one last major emotional obstacle. One final decision, one final goodbye. Maybe Amy will have to choose between staying and leaving. Maybe Jack will finally realize that Heartland doesn't need him in the way it once did. Maybe Katie will discover that moving forward means accepting that some relationships are not meant to last. Or maybe the biggest surprise will come from someone we aren't expecting. That is the beauty of Season 20. We know the season is coming. We know production is underway. We know it is scheduled for fall 2026. But we don't yet know exactly how these characters will emerge from it. And if the writers really are preparing Heartland for a new era, the first few episodes could contain clues that only make sense once we reach the finale. So when the trailer finally arrives, don't just watch for the horses. Watch the background. Watch who is standing beside Amy. Watch where Nathan is. Watch whether Heartland Ranch looks different. Watch Katie's reaction when Miles appears. Watch Jack and Dex together. And most importantly, watch Amy. Because if Season 20 is really about Amy finally choosing her future, her expression may tell us more than the dialogue ever could. And that is where this season could become something much bigger than another chapter. It could become the moment Heartland finally asks its characters to stop looking backward and choose what comes next. Heartland Season 20 is officially on the way, and the new season could bring Amy and Nathan closer to marriage, introduce new relationship complications for Katie, give the younger generation bigger responsibilities, and potentially push several longtime characters toward major life changes. Production is underway, and CBC has confirmed a fall 2026 return, but now I want to hear from you. Do you think Amy will actually marry Nathan? Should Amy leave Heartland and start a new ranch with him? And do you believe Season 20 could eventually become the final season? Or do you think Heartland still has many more stories left to tell? Tell me your theory in the comments, because the most interesting part of Season 20 may not be what we already know. It may be the secret the trailer hasn't shown us yet.